This is a haul that I got from a local card show recently. I'll put timestamps down in the description where I'll talk about each individual transaction and how it went. I told myself not to buy a ton of cards at the first table because I assumed there were going to be more exciting cards to find throughout the entire venue, which there were. We'll get to that shortly. But these were two cards that I wanted to pick up at one of the first tables that I stopped by. Here we have a Wiglett illustration rare from, I believe, Scarlet Violet base set. At the time, I thought the condition was pretty good, maybe good enough to potentially get a PSA 10. Unfortunately though, upon bringing this home and inspecting it a little bit further, there is a small scratch on the front, and I think the whitening was also a little more severe on the corners than I initially believed them to be. But that's okay though, this is a card that is also nice to have for my PC. And I also just like the design, I think it's pretty cool. The second card that I got from that same transaction was this Marshadow Machamp, Tag Team GX. I don't know which set this is from. The thing about this card is that this is a very clean card. If you look at the back is super clean in terms of whitening. There's no whitening at all. It's centered pretty well too, especially with the tag team border. I think the centering is actually very good for this type of card. I checked the surface. I couldn't find any surface scratches on the front, nor anything on the back that could deduct it from a 10. This is actually going to be one of the cards that I grade because I'm pretty confident it will get a PSA 10. I got these two together for $20, which I don't think was too bad of a deal. But I was willing to pay close to market price because of how clean this tag team card was. The next table I went to was actually a little different. The guy actually mainly sold sports cards. He had a bunch of football, baseball cards, graded as well as non-graded on his table. He actually had a little corner set aside at his booth with some Pokemon cards. The guy told me that those Pokemon cards were actually part of his kids' collection and that he was helping to sell some of his kids' personal collection. So first off, we have this Flareon EX. It's either from Generations or Legendary Treasures. I don't remember exactly which one. In terms of whitening, there is a little bit of whitening down on like these two corners down here. There's like one or two dots of whitening, and then this one as well. Other than that, the condition of this card is actually very good, especially for a card as old as 2016. The other card that I picked up from that same table was this PSA 8 Misty's Determination. Looking at the front and the back, I'm honestly a little surprised that this got a PSA 8. Maybe there's some scratches on the surface. There is like no whitening back here whatsoever. However, it is pretty off-centered. Like the centering is definitely left heavy if you look at the front. I didn't think this would warrant an 8 grade. I feel like if I were to try to resubmit this, it could possibly get a 9. As of now, I don't plan on cracking a slab though, just because I'm not like super confident, and it's not going to get a 10 anyway, so I don't think it's worth cracking a slab unless I think it could get a PSA 10. We agreed on $95. On to the third deal of the day, and even though these three cards were only $40 in total, this was actually one of my favorite deals of the day because, for those that don't know, I really like collecting Japanese cards for my PC. I just like Japanese cards because they're generally better quality. So we have this Alolan Ninetales GX from, I don't remember what the exact set is called, but it's the Japanese equivalent of Hidden Fates. Definitely gradable. This wouldn't be too much of an upside at a PSA 10 though. I still want to grade this. And we have two tag teams from Remix Bout as well, which I believe is a Japanese version of Cosmic Eclipse. We have this Charizard Breaksin, pretty clean, great centering. The back is also really nice as well. We also have a Blastoise Piplup over here. Great centering, great surface, no whitening whatsoever. Just Japanese cards, they hit. They're bangers. They're always bangers. But yeah, like I said, these three I got together for $40, and I do plan on grading all three of these in my next submission. So keep an eye out for that PSA return. Here's the fourth transaction. I'm kicking myself a little bit on this deal because I didn't check the centering super carefully on the Zinnia's Resolve card. Granted, this card is extremely clean. The surface is great. There's no whitening whatsoever in any of these corners. Pretty much perfect, with the exception that it's right heavy on the front. I'm not sure how I missed this during a card show. That's completely my fault, but unfortunately, just because of that front centering, this isn't a card that I can grade when I initially thought it would be a card worth grading. That was a bit of a fumble on my part, but hey, you live and you learn. From that same deal, I got another illustration rare. This one I kind of bought for the memes because Gulpin my nut. In terms of the card condition, it does have a nick on the top corner over there. And I also think the centering isn't perfect on the front either, so this wouldn't grade, but I got this one kind of just for fun. And for those that are curious, these two together I got for $14. Right, we got two more cards at the next table that I went to. I got both of these for $37 in total. Here we have a Rainbow Birds Zapdos Moltres Articuno tag team. I believe it has a little bit of whitening somewhere. Not exactly sure where. It might have been in this corner where it was covered. I already looked through all of these cards to double check which ones are actually gradable or not. There was something wrong with this. I don't remember exactly what. This is still a nice card to have. And then we have this illustration rare, Yveltal. I believe it's from Paradox Rift. And the thing about this card is that if you look at the back, it is actually pretty clean. I think that's just dust right there. That's not whitening or anything. In terms of the corners do look, I believe, slightly better than average. They're not perfect by any means. Card with these type of corners could potentially get a 10. In this one, I took a bit of a risk on. I knew looking at this card during the show, it could have been outside of 55-45 centering limits, but it also could have been within. I just wasn't sure, and unfortunately, the centering is 56 and 44. So just outside of the PSA 10 requirements, which is really unfortunate, but it just sometimes happens like that. All right, this next deal is the biggest deal we've done so far. We have another big deal coming up after this one, but this one was pretty cool. This was all $100. We got a copy of Cynthia's Ambition, a Chatot illustration rare, a Deerling illustration rare, and the big pickup among these three cards is this Origin Form Palkia V alternate art from Astral Radiance. And if you actually look at this card, you can see that the centering is really bad. It's like tilted almost. Like if you look at the top border, there's like barely any top border. It almost doesn't exist. And then it's super bottom heavy, and I think it's a little left heavy as well. Part of the reason why I actually bought this card is because I think this card could get an OC grade. I don't have any OC identifier PSA cards in my collection. Seeing that this card was a pretty valuable card and a card that has a really cool design and has the possibility of getting that OC grade, I had to pick it up to go for it. I'm really hoping it does get like a 9 OC and not like a PSA 6 or a PSA 7 because of that centering. The corners do look very good. I believe the back surface had a few scratches, nothing too major. I don't think those scratches should dock it down anywhere past a 9. Hoping I can get an OC grade on this card. As for these two illustration rares, I got these because both of these are actually quite clean. If we look at this Deerling illustration rare, the front I checked didn't really have any scratching issues. Centering is pretty good, definitely within bounds. If you try to look at these corners, the corners don't look too bad either. I think this is an illustration rare that has a good chance of getting a PSA 10, and that's part of the reason why I picked this one up. Same thing with this Chatot. I thought the card itself looked pretty clean. I don't think this card is as clean as that Deerling that I just showed. The corners still look very good for an illustration rare, and I think the centering is also good as well. We'll see what this card gets once I submit it to PSA. The last card of this transaction is Cynthia's Ambition from, I believe it's Crown Zenith. This card isn't really gradable. There's some whitening down here, but I wanted to get this card because one, I think the design is really cool, and two, I'm kind of making a play on this specific card. I think this card is going to go up in value. Right now, the market on this is like $16 or $17. I think this is a card that could go actually up to $30. Don't take my word for it though. This is just my own guess, and this is basically me taking a risk on this card. I actually have two other copies that I've bought in the past over here, and I actually have a fourth copy as well that you'll see in just a bit. This is the 7th transaction of the day. Two more illustration rares. There's this Dodonzo illustration rare from Scarlet Violet base set. I think at the time I thought I could grade this. All right, so if you look at it closely, you can actually see there's some surface scratching. That surface scratching wasn't something that I had initially noticed at the time. I mean, it's just how it is. These cards have pretty bad quality control. This is a second illustration rare that I got from that same transaction. Pretty clean. I think this corner has one white dot up here. There is a bit of whitening. I'm actually not sure if I will grade this card actually. The centering is very good. Yeah, we'll see whether or not I actually grade this card or not. For those that are wondering, these two together I got for $28. This is the 8th transaction that I did of the day. Cards together I got for $65, which is actually a pretty good deal, like decently under what the market value of these 4 cards are. Part of the reason why I was able to get these cards under market value is because this Pikachu, if you look at the back, there are a bunch of white dots on the front over here, or on the back of this card right here. Not sure how well you can see them. I'm not exactly sure how that happened. The guy didn't even notice they were there until I brought them up. But when I saw them and I brought it up, he was able to bring the cost down for me a little bit, which was really nice. And it's really sad that this is actually here because everything else about this card is very clean. Like the corners are great, the centering is good, like even the back centering is very good, which isn't something that you see every day. And then I picked up these 3 cards. This is a 4th Cynthia's Ambition card that I mentioned earlier. I got both of these cards for my personal collection. I was kind of hoping to grade both of these cards as well, but this was a situation where if they didn't end up being gradable, then like I wouldn't mind too much because I also just liked how both of these cards look. This is a Mega Slowbro EX from Evolutions. I think this one has like a whitening issue somewhere. Don't exactly remember where. I don't have many Mega Evolutions in my PC, so this is a nice card to have for that. And then this is a Swinub that I got from Journey Together. I didn't actually pay $7 for it. The market on this card has gone way down since then. I think I only paid like $3. I think it's a pretty cute artwork. He's just kind of chilling there. Or all 4 of these cards were $65. Here was the 9th transaction. I just got like Glass Birds, Zapdos, Moltres, Articuno, the promo card from the Hidden Fates ETB. I actually already have one of these cards, but I liked how this card was centered a little bit better than the copy that I already have. If you look at the back, the corners and edges do look very clean. However, there was something up with this card on the surface. I'll have to double check off camera. I picked this one up for $50. Last and definitely not least, this was by far the biggest deal that I did of the day. These 4 cards had a market price of over $400. We negotiated down to $360 for these 4 cards. And I'm actually really happy with this purchase because I think a lot of these cards did end up being gradable. Unfortunately, not this Origin Form Palkia from Crown Zenith because, and this is actually my fault, but as I was pre-grading these cards, I actually dropped this card while holding it, and I caused the smallest amount of whitening on that bottom edge right there when I dropped it. I'm still kicking myself for that one because this card is actually super clean otherwise. The centering was great, surface is good, corners are good. Thankfully, this card is still near mint though. The damage that I caused to it is very minimal. It's just that tiny like speck of whitening down there. At the very least, I can still consider this a near mint copy of this card. The second card of this lot of 4 is this Garchomp Giratina Tag Team. Looks pretty clean. I don't know why this card saver is so dusty. Maybe that's kind of like making it look kind of weird. It's definitely worth enough of a shot for me to at least try to submit it for that PSA 10. Kind of a similar situation for this Groudon. And this one I'm kind of taking a risk on, but there is a kind of an alignment dot, or it's not even really whitening, but the corner is like a little pushed back a little bit. The other 4 corners look very good though. Since I'm actually relatively new to PSA grading, I'm also kind of submitting this card just to kind of test my own knowledge and to see what kind of flaws can get a 10 and which kind of flaws will eliminate a card from being a 10. And last, definitely not least, this is a single most expensive card from this entire video. The most expensive card is right here. So this is the Mega Charizard EX from X and Y Flashfire. The reason why this card was almost $200 by itself is because the quality is really, really clean. This is one of those cards where the near mint version of this card sells for way more than even the light played version. And I'm definitely going to submit this card to grade because even at a PSA 9, this card still goes up to $300. There's no reason for me to not submit a card that looks this good. So I don't think it'll get an 8 or any lower than an 8. If it gets a 10, that'd be amazing because I think this is a $1,000 card at a 10, but I'm not actually expecting it to be a 10 just because I feel like they're gonna dock it down to a 9 just because it's such an old card. I don't know. Sometimes PSA just seems to be like that. If we do get a 10, I'll be super happy about that. Not getting my hopes too high for this one just to be a little more conservative. That is the entire haul that I got from the card show. Let me know down in the comments if you have questions about any of these cards that I bought. I hope you enjoyed the video.